Awesome. So, hello everyone. Welcome to today's podcast with Raise Your Edge. And for those who discovered us just yet, I'm Bencb, the founder of Raise Your Edge, and I'm very excited to welcome someone to today's episode who we all have to be extremely grateful for. His name is Chris Moneymaker, and I believe if there's someone that doesn't need an introduction, it would be certainly him. However, for those who just discovered poker and this channel, I want to share quickly the story behind the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Moneymaker. You satellited into the WSOP main event 2003 for less than $100. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You are correct. Yeah, it was $86.
$86, and you, which is already an incredible ROI, and you took it down for roughly 2.5 million, if I remember correctly, and this story unleashed a yet unseen poker boom, and I think I speak for a lot of poker players that a lot of us poker players wouldn't be there today without this story. And you're not only a talented poker player, but also from what I've seen, how I perceive you, a very humble, a very down-to-earth guy. That's why I wanted to have you here on the podcast, discuss with you poker, discuss with you everything around that people love to hear. And yeah, Chris, thank you for everything that you're doing for poker, and thank you so much for joining me here today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Appreciate having me on the show. It's good to be here. Been a member of actually Raise Your Edge for a while now, so cool to be on the show.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that. At some point I saw you posting in our Discord, and people love to impersonate their idols. So someone was called C Money or with your initials. I was not a big deal for me. I would have never expected that you sign up with Raise Your Edge, and then I actually saw that it's really you, which I was close to the tears, to be honest. It's you're someone that unleashed such a boom, and then signing up with the content that you're creating for, that's definitely, it's a milestone in my career, for sure. Where are you at the moment?
I'm actually at home. I'm in my office. Just got back home. Been a really, really busy fall and winter. So I'm actually taking some time off. We've got a Tunica series starting up tomorrow here, about 20 minutes from the house. So I'm going to play the WSOP circuit event here in Tunica. And then after that, I'm going to take a little bit more time doing a couple charity events. And then I'll be back on the road doing this Moneymaker tour, going off to back to Russia, going to Sochi in March, going to Lex Live probably in April. And then, gearing up for the World Series. So it'll be about that time.
Do you enjoy these long travels? I mean, for you, as someone who lives in the States, then traveling all the way through to Europe and Russia?
Yeah, I mean, I love going and traveling and seeing new places. I've been to Russia 3 times now. This will be my 4th trip coming up in March. The people there are extremely friendly. It's always a great trip. Every time I go on a road trip, it's always nice. I mean, you get to meet so many different people and see how poker's grown across the world. I mean, from back when I was doing it in 2004, and it was also brand new, to now the majority of people are more seasoned and more aware of what's going on in the poker world. So back in the early beginning, it was a bunch of 8Xing and people calling off with, bottom pair, and it was a crazy time. People were just learning how to play the game, and just to see the growth of the game, the development over the last 20 some odd years is pretty incredible.
How was it for you adjusting to these changes?
It was tough at first, I'll be honest. Obviously I got into the game and hit it real big right away, which put a target on my back, first of all, and my game leading up to that point was a lot of aggression and a lot of bluffing. Well, that doesn't work very well when you have a target on your back and everybody wants to call you.
Yeah.
So it took a little bit of time for me to adjust. And to be honest, the problem that I had is, I got first in the main event, and what a lot of people don't know is actually the second tournament I played was a WPT tournament in February, and ended up getting second place in that. And after a first and second place finish, I really felt like I was kind of invincible. So I really didn't study the game. I didn't keep up with all the new, back then, if you got 3-bet, it was generally aces, kings, ace, king. You know, the range was really small, and you didn't really think in ranges. It was all assigning people one specific hand, and people just weren't that sophisticated. Even back then there were a lot of poker rooms where it was illegal to check raise. So if you had a hand, you
Really?
bet your hand.
You're kidding.
Yeah, in my local room in Tunica, we only played limit poker. You couldn't. There was no limit at the time. But it was written on the wall: checking and raising is not allowed. So people would bet their hand if they had it, and that's actually how, when I first started playing the main event, when I just played position, and when people checked to me, I bet. So that was usually an indication they didn't have anything, and I survived on that for quite a while. I would just use position, and I would check raise people periodically, but a lot of times I would just bet when they checked to me, and pretty easy game at that point. So to go and see that, and to see what we are now, I didn't really adapt to 3, 4, and 5 betting very well, because honestly, it's kind of a weird thing when you go and win 2 tournaments like I did back to back, and then you go for a year or 2 with okay results, because I was still doing okay, I just wasn't winning anything, to then I started not having really any results at all. I was kind of blaming it on variance, blaming it on bad luck. I'm just not running very well. Things just aren't going my way. And it wasn't until, God, I want to say 7 or 8 years later that I was playing online on Pokerstars. And I remember, I think it was Sean Deeb or someone of that caliber who was, really recognized in online poker and really a top-end player. We got into a pot, and I'll never forget the pot where I had opened with ace king. They 3-bet me with queen 5, and then I 4-bet with ace king, and they jammed over the top, and they showed queen 5. And normally I would just think, well, what a monkey that guys just give me his chips. I ended up winning the hand, but it made me think a lot. I knew who this player was. This is a real high-end, well-known player, and why in the hell would he just monkey off with queen 5 there in a 5-bet pot? It just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But the fact that it didn't make sense to me meant that I'm probably missing something in my game, and I'm getting 3-bet a ton. I know people don't have the hands that they're having, so I need to figure something out, because the game's changing a lot. And it was kind of that at that time, it was a wake-up call, and I started doing different training things, as far as raise your edge or chip leader coaching or run it once. I mean, I've probably been through the majority of them, and just try to improve my game year after year. Just because you won the main event or you won a big tournament doesn't mean you should stop working on your game. And I think that's why I'm still, there's not a whole lot of players back from my era. God, that sounds so bad. Back from when I was playing that are playing today. I mean, you see Helmuth, and you see Negreanu, and I guess Manisau a little bit, and Seidel. But really, I mean, you can probably count them on 2 hands, that the players that were playing at a high level back in my day that are still playing today. And obviously, that's a lot of it's attributed to the fact that the game's changed so much, and people didn't want to work on their game and didn't want to study it.
Yeah. What would you advise to someone that, maybe not to an extent as you experienced with winning the main event, but I have heard similar stories. I mean, I get these messages day in, day out. Pay Ben, I deposited $100. I won a low stakes tournament for $2,000, and I blasted it off all. It seems like a recurring pattern for a lot of players. Luckily, you recognized it and you took action. I mean, it's definitely hard. Once you get so much validation and you experience so much success, it's gonna ultimately happen that you think you're actually pretty good and you're somewhat invincible, right? But what would be your advice to players to avoid that? What would you tell them? Okay, if you deposit money and you are successful right from the start, what would you tell them? What would you advise them to not lose the ground under their feet?
Basically, then you got to realize this game's has a lot high level of variance to it. You can run really good for a couple months to a year, and think that you're a really solid player, and then you wake up one day and you're losing all your flips and you're losing all your hands and you're getting outplayed, and you start playing bad, and all of a sudden you wake up and you're broke. That's kind of what this game is. A lot of times that it can turn on you in a dime. The one thing that you have to do is you have to be mentally prepared for those downswings. They're going to come. Take breaks, study as much as you can. I mean, try to put in as much time off the tables as you do on. And if you have a bad session, go back and review it and figure out, did you just lose a bunch of flips, or did you make some bad decisions? And honestly, you got to be honest with yourself. I mean, I would go back and look at my stuff and I would say, okay, well, I just lost this big flip, this big flip, this big flip. But when you go back and I would look with a friend and we would go over it, and I got 3-bet out of so many pots and I lost so much small money that, by the time I lost the big flips, I was down so much money. Where if I would have just played effectively and not been 3-bet out of so many pots, or not been blown off so many other hands, I could have mitigated the loss and been okay. And it wasn't so much that, I blinded myself down, or I lost a big pot and then I lost kings to ace-5. It was, in the middle of the tournament, I wasn't aggressive enough. I didn't pick up enough pots, and I let myself get down to 30 big blinds or 25 big blinds, and I wasn't staying active enough and giving myself a chance to capitalize on having a bigger stack. So, or whatever that might be. It's usually a problem with your play. I mean, no one's perfect in the game. Obviously, a lot of people always know how to play really good, but short-term validation is not a good reason to not be studying and not to be working on your game. And if you're not working on your game, if you're not better 6 months from now than you are today, then eventually you're not going to be playing poker, because people are just always improving.
Yeah, it's a good indicator also. Let's say if you take 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and I always like to do it. I have a whiteboard in my back where I always write down specific, just very generic. Okay, be more aggressive blind versus blind. Be more aggressive in 3-bet pots, because I remember, okay, that's what I was studying on. And I always encourage my students or everyone to ask yourself, okay, if you study a lot, what have you learned the last 6 months? How do you exploit your opponents? Exactly. And when you cannot come up with 4, 5, 6 things within 30 seconds, you're either not studying enough or you're studying inefficiently, and you actually don't really know how to implement this stuff. It's good to know everything in theory and how GTO works, but when you don't know how to put that into practice, then there's also something wrong. Because I know a lot of guys, they know for sure more than I do in theory, but they're lacking applying it. And on the poker table, there is not so much more about balancing GTO. You still have to play against one specific opponent, and you want to play your opponent and not your range. And this is where I think especially new players that started playing poker 2-3 years, where you basically grow up with this GTO, it's hard to adopt this exploitative style, which ultimately is the way to play. GTO helps you understanding poker, but I think to apply, you want to play a very exploitative approach. And yeah, I think it's a mistake or a big flaw in a lot of people's play. You mentioned studying and that you started working on your game. Is there anything outside of, let's say, studying the game, technical, ranges, post-flop, whatever, speaking more about mindset, is there anything that you work on your mindset that you do in particular that you can share with our viewers?
Yeah, I've actually been through worked with two mental coaches, Sam Shahan and Elliot Rowe, who now works with Fedora. I had sessions and worked with both of them, and basically it just comes down to controlling your emotions and realizing when you're not playing your A game. I meditate every morning. I'm still not the greatest meditator, but I try. I can get through 5 minutes of complete non-thought. My mind races, so it's always difficult, but it does make you feel good in the morning. The one other thing that I constantly battle with, and it's my biggest weakness, is trying to stay into shape. Whenever I'm exercising and actually in a good workout routine, I always feel sharper, and I always feel like whenever I have a bad run or a bad session, if I go exercise, I can get out of it really quickly and really easily, and it's not a big deal. But I'll say, I've been playing the game now for 15 years, and outside of busting out of the main event, I don't really get that affected at all. I mean, it's just, I look at every game that I play. I want to say really, really good bankroll management. So I'm never going to be in a situation to where if I take a loss that it's going to really just destroy my mood or destroy my day. Usually I just laugh it off and know that that's kind of the variance of the game. To get to that point it's not easy. I'll be honest. I mean, I went through years of, breaking computers and, smashing mice. But it really comes down to, I wore a rubber band for a long time. Every time I had a bad thought, I would snap the rubber band. I I would go on walks during tournaments when I took bad beats and I was really short. To now, I used to always want to get back the chips that I lost immediately. I wanted to, if my peak was 250,000 and I dropped down to 100,000, I wanted to get back to that peak as fast as I possibly. What in the world? My screen just went blank. Must have been. So anyways, I was always trying to get back, and it's just not the right mindset. You just need to let it go. Like if you're any other sport, a quarterback or whatever, you just got to forget about it. You're still sitting with 100,000, which is a good stack. Or even if you're at 10 bigs, you just got to know the proper strategy at 10 bigs. I mean, that's where you can play a very exploitive style a lot of times, but when you get down to 10 bigs, I mean, it's pretty easy to play. If you study the charts, you know what your push fold ranges are, and you know what you're supposed to do. I mean, you can exploit even a little bit there when you have opponents that are playing too tight in the blinds and people that aren't playing proper strategy. So yeah, I mean, I think it's really identifying who's not playing proper strategy and how to use it. But for mentally, it's all about just realizing it's a long-term game. And at the end of the day, I get to play a game for a living, so I'm pretty blessed. And I think anybody that plays this game semi-seriously or gets to do it full-time, you just got to realize it's going to happen, and you just got to get over it. It's not something that should affect you more than a couple seconds, and if it does, you're probably in the wrong profession.
Yeah. Sounds like
I've got a lot of friends that they'd win 60,000 in a day, and the next day they'd be broke. I mean, and it was a cycle. It would happen all the time, and they couldn't understand why they would run so good and then just punt it off. They would always move up stakes as they started to lose because they wanted to get it back, and it would just never. Every once in a while, obviously, it works out, but more times than not, it's gonna end up bad for you. And online, it's so easy to do. I haven't been playing as much online in the recent last year or so. I've been traveling so much. I've been playing more live. It's a little bit more difficult to do live, other if you want to go into the pit and try to get even that way, which definitely is not the way to go. But playing online is pretty easy to just keep moving up levels, and I see people just punt off big numbers, trying to get back even or get back to their high point. And again, that comes back to mental toughness and realizing that you can take a loss. I mean, sometimes you have to end the day with a loss. You just got to walk away. Some people just can't do it.
Yeah, 100% agree. I even myself recognize sometimes, of course, when you have a big stack and you lose half of your stack, you're like, damn, you were in such a good position. It's more that you think about it and all right, you have these thoughts, but I think it's important to accept the thoughts that you have and not let it affect your game. This is ultimately what happens. I remember a couple of students from mine, they tried, no, I don't want to have these emotions, I don't want to have these thoughts. Like, you're a human being, you can't decide what kind of thoughts you have. You just the relationship with your thoughts, that's what you want to work on, and ultimately not let these thoughts let you tilt and blast off your stack.
I thought meditation was mumbo jumbo, I'll be honest, but if you really get into it, it does work. It helps you to control your thoughts and to really think about how you react to situations.
I'm happy to hear that. I'm a big fan of meditation. But yeah, I can believe it. Like back then I was a very hyperactive guy, I would say, always action, like not very patient, and through meditation it has completely changed. And I would have never, I thought like you did, or just not believing into it. I thought like what just sitting there in silence, how is it supposed to help? I need to do something. I came from this frame of I need to do something actively in order to improve myself. How can sitting there not doing anything improve myself? That's not possible. But once I started trying out, and it also took me a while to really manifest this habit, then I also started recognizing big improvement, not only in my poker game, but also in my everyday, laughing off any kind of daily situations where you usually would get upset about, and then you just take it, you're like, yeah, all right, that's life, let's move on, and just in general way more calmer.
It helped my marriage a lot too. I mean, I used to get so pissed off at my wife when she would nag at me for different stuff, and now I just, yeah, whatever, babe, I got it. No worries, I'll take care of it. It just doesn't bother me as much anymore. So we're happier. I mean, it's been a really good change in my life, and again, I would never in a million years thought that it would be something that I would even do, but much less it would be a huge advantage.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, it doesn't necessarily help you when things are going well. It really helps you in those situations when you get emotional. Then you realize, okay, there's more control. Even though it's just 10-20% when you stay more in charge of your actions, this already helps a lot. If you put that, if you transmit it into numbers, this is already quite some profit in poker. When you punt off your stack 10-20% less, it's going to improve your win rate. And
well, especially when you put off your stack, it's going to cost you so much more to go to zero.
Yeah, true.
And it's definitely life-changing. I mean, like you said, when you're running good and everything's going smooth, I mean, hell, anybody can play well.
Yeah. What do you think is the main motivation for people to start with poker anyway? Do you really think it's mostly monetary, or is it more the freedom that poker might provide for people? Or maybe is there something else, maybe the competitive aspect of the game? You probably have met so many people in your career. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's different for every person. It's different for every culture, really. I mean, I think in the U.S. and Europe, it's more the competitive edge and maybe the freedom to do things, where when you get down to like Brazil and some of these countries that maybe are not so off, it's a way to make money more so than you could ever make in that country. I mean, when you go play online and you're in, name a small, country with, Venezuela, for example, their currency's worth shit. So if you're able to go and actually just make a little bit of money online, you're making so much more than what all your counterparts in your country are making. So a lot of it's monetary, and especially in some of these smaller countries. And obviously it's still monetary in the U.S. and Europe as well. But I think in the U.S. and Europe as well, it comes a lot of it comes with entertainment and the competitive edge of the game, where I don't think it's as much entertainment in, say, I don't know, Brazil.
Yeah.
Or somewhere like that. So I think it just really depends on, I guess, your upbringing and kind of where you are in life. But at the end of the day, I mean, obviously we're all playing this game to keep score, to keep money. But I mean, the social aspect of it is really huge. I mean, I play a lot of VR poker, and it's for no money. And I used to play back before I won the World Series. I had no aspirations of being a pro. It was just something I enjoyed doing. We would get around a bunch of friends around a kitchen table, and we would play Chase the Queen and all these weird games, and it was all about social. It wasn't anything about the money. But of course, you want to win. You got to be competitive.
Yeah, that's true. What surprises me is that how long you maintain the motivation for the game. If I look at my circle of friends, let's take the Get Speed Campino crew around Fedor, Reiner, Steffen Sontheimer. They still play, but not as hardcore grinding as it used to be. And then I also know a lot of friends that completely quit after just 4 or 5 years. You have been around then now almost for 20 years. What do you think? Why do you stay around for so long, and why do you keep the passion alive for so long? And why do you think so many quit after just a couple of years?
Well, I think maybe it's a couple different reasons. One, the guys that you mentioned were playing at the highest level, playing 25Ks, 50Ks. The amount of pressure to play in those events consistently is just through the roof. Where I'm playing as more of an enjoyment aspect. When I play, it's more of a social atmosphere. I'm cutting up, telling jokes, having a good time. The money is secondary to me playing. I always feel like when I'm playing in a tournament or a cash game, if I bust somebody and they come up and want a picture and shake my hand afterwards, then I've done my job. They had a good time. I want people to enjoy themselves, whether they bust or they bust me or I bust them. So a lot of what I'm playing for, one, the enjoyment, two, to grow the game, but also, it's a lot less stressful what I'm doing. I mean, I'm not going out and playing a ton of big events. Like this year, 2020, I'll probably play the main event and I'll play the PSPC. And those are the only two 10,000 plus buy-in events I'll play all year. The majority of my events are going to be 1,500, 1,700. Smaller events that, don't provide as much stress, and that makes it to where my longevity is probably going to last a lot longer, because I'm not dealing with that stress level that those guys dealt with over 4 or 5 years. If I was playing 25Ks every week, and I wasn't doing very well, or if I was doing well, my stress level would probably be through the roof. I mean, I can play tournaments pretty comfortably and have a good time with it and joke around and I enjoy the game, and that's just, even though I do work hard at the game and I do want to win, I'm looking at it from a different angle.
Do you have any other projects apart from poker?
Nope, just poker projects. I'm working on a few different things right now, but throughout my history, yeah, I've done some different projects. I had a slot machine company for a while. Actually had a children's clothing store, which was my wife's. But I'm working on a project right now that seems pretty fun. It's kind of within the poker space, and we'll see how that goes. But
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily just grinding, playing poker itself. Whether it's being an ambassador, of course, is also what I mean. So you have some other projects apart from just purely playing.
oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't grind poker, like just sit and grind poker that much. I'll be honest. I mean, I probably study the game more than I actually play it. I don't ever watch it on TV. I don't. Poker's not a huge part of my life. I'll be honest. I probably couldn't tell you who the top 10 players in the world are right now, and I probably couldn't pick them out of a lineup. I just don't follow poker that much. I'll be honest. It's not. When I'm playing the game, I'm playing socially with people, but I don't ever like. It's not part of my life. It's not like one of my passions. You asked me before we started this podcast. Have I seen one of the podcasts before? I don't think I've watched a poker podcast or poker video or poker interview in 15 years. It's just not something, I'm not going to learn that way. And, honestly, I'm just not overly interested to see what a bunch of poker players are doing. So I don't really follow the poker world that much. I'm not really in the loop as far as what the mainstream poker players are doing. I'm doing kind of my own thing, working with Pokerstars and just trying to grow the game at more of a grassroots level. And so I'm not out there just grinding all the time. It's more, again, being an ambassador type role, playing virtual reality poker. I'll go make appearances, and when I'm doing that, I'll go grind 2-5. But when I'm grinding 2-5, most of it's joking around and having a good time.
Do you maybe think that these projects, apart from grinding, whether it's being an ambassador or the clothing store that you have or had, some other the other project, the how was it called, I forgot the
Slot
name.
machine.
Slot machine.
Yes.
The slot machine project, that this maybe helped you also to learn more about just playing poker, learn about business, team building, marketing, or whatever it is, because you learn also other skills that maybe helped you balancing poker with other aspects of life, because we're naturally, especially as men, we want to learn, we want to grow, right? We want to discover new things. And this maybe kept the fire alive for poker, and that you don't have a problem even though you won big scores and you played big tournaments, that you don't mind playing $1,700 tournaments, $200 tournaments, whatever, that you still have the fire for the game, that you don't mind necessarily always playing for a lot of money. Because I can also see myself a little bit. I don't mind playing on Sunday the Sunday Storm for $11, but also I don't mind playing a $2,000 tournament. So for me, it's also, I just love the game, and I'm always wondering, why do other people struggle so much? And I was just wondering, maybe it also helped you, that you had some other projects that helped you balancing poker and some other areas in your life as well.
Well, I would just guess, probably sounding like you. I mean, you have this project that you work on. You have other things in your life. I mean, I just don't focus that much on poker. It's a job that I put, 20, 30 hours a week at most. But for the most time, I mean, I've got a family, I've got kids, and just having that other outlet that, like, again, we're going to schedule this today, and I was taking kids to school, going shopping with my wife, picking kids up from school, just doing other things that had, obviously no relation to poker. So I think a lot of the people that I know that got burnt out from playing poker, that's all they did was play poker nonstop. Yeah. I mean, I've got a buddy of mine that he's been a poker professional now for 20 years, but he hates playing poker. He hates it with a passion. He doesn't ever want to play. He moved out of the country during Black Friday so he could go play online, and hated life. And, he's done everything he can do to get away from it. But unfortunately, he's pretty good at it, and he doesn't really have any other skills. His resume is pretty blank, so there's really not a whole lot else he can do. But he hates every second of it because he did it for so long and he dedicated so much time to it. But that's all he did. He would wake up, play poker, go to bed, wake up and play poker again. And he loved it for a long time, but he finally just said, you know what, this is kind of terrible. I just don't want to do this anymore. And I think a lot of successful poker players get over invested in putting their time into the game and don't have outlets to do other things, whether it be a family or other projects or anything. You got to have balance in your life. You have to be able to get away. You'll have poker players that'll go play poker all day, then they'll go home and watch Poker Go, or talk about what's going on in the WSOP or whatever. I mean, during the WSOP, I don't know who's winning bracelets. I don't ever follow what's going on. I've never followed any events. I couldn't tell you who won a bracelet. People ask me, do you know this guy or this guy? I'm like, no. They're like, oh, he won a bracelet. Okay. I couldn't tell you probably who won the main event a couple of years ago. It's just, I don't follow poker that much. I have other interests and I have other things going on. So when I am in poker, I'm really passionate about it. I want to play. I play usually almost all the time because I want to play, not because I have to.
Yeah. Yeah, makes a whole lot of sense. It's sad because there's in fact some very talented players, and I think that if you manage to be a winning player, I mean, only if you achieve that, you have something that you can work with. You have an incredible mindset. So you can definitely leverage in a way that you can use it in some other areas as well. And I think at some point, because I realized that after 5 years, I started in 2009, and around 2014, 15, when I started Raise Your Edge, it was exactly this point in time where I didn't want to grind sitting goes 10 hours a day, clicking 25 big blind sitting goes every day, because you have seen everything, right? Like with 25 big blind poker, there's not so much to do. And I was like, really? I want to do this for the rest of my life? So then I also I switched to tournament poker to learn a new format, and I started Raise Your Edge because I knew at some point I also don't want to grind tournaments for the rest of my life. It fucks up your sleep cycle, and you're not really able to build a healthy routine around it if you grind tournaments every day. And I think this project around Raise Your Edge also helped me balancing. And now I play once a week, Sundays. I'm fired up on Saturday. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward. And I want to play.
Yeah, I get your Discord messages every Sunday. I don't get to play on Sundays, but I get your messages like, hey, it's a big day today. Let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you're still passionate about poker. And, I get, again, it's probably because of this project you're doing. If you're only playing once a week, yeah, you're going to be super passionate about playing.
Yeah. And I don't mind, like, just throughout the week, I play maybe a couple of hours Zoom 500 or One and Runs poker to try different cash games on different sites just for a few hours. But then I decide, yeah, I want to play. And at some point, 5-6 years, yeah, it's. I think if you now, for someone who's watching, feels a little bit lack of motivation, maybe there's the time also to learn something new. And if you start learning something new and spend more time on something else, you might then also get the fire again for poker and the passion for poker.
You will. I mean, if you go do something else for a while and just forget about poker, you'll come back and you'll be ready to go. I got a buddy, he got into land development and started doing that. And he doesn't get to play poker near as much, but every time he does, he's like a kid in the candy store ready to go play. He can't wait. He used to be a professional poker player, but now he does this land stuff, and he likes doing both, but he doesn't get to play poker much. But every time he does, he loves it now. It really is sort of stepping away and taking a break and not being around it all the time.
What would you advise someone who wants to start poker today and pursue it professionally?
If you want to pursue it professionally, just have a backup plan. I mean, poker from when I started to where it is today, it's a completely different game. And while poker's not dying, it's always transforming. I mean, you see new variations, whether it be short deck or PLO took off for a while. I mean, poker's going to change. People want something different. What's in right now, what's really hot right now might change 5 years from now. And you have to be flexible and you have to be ready to change games, whether it be going from no limit to limit hold'em. I mean, you got to be on the forefront of seeing where the games are headed. And, there's been a big move over the last couple of years to mixed games. You got to be, well versed in all the games so you can play all those games and be in the money where, people aren't playing at your local game. They're not playing no limit anymore. They're all playing PLO. That's going to be really difficult for you. And that's just how the game changes. Then also you have the regulations, that change the game so much. Obviously if you're in the U.S., you can't play online poker, but a few states. So it's a really tough way to make a living just for the simple fact that you just don't know what the future holds. It's very uncertain, and players are getting better. But if it's something that you're dead set on and you're really wanting to do this, make sure that you have an ample bankroll You can always take shots, but if you're taking shots, make sure it doesn't kill your bankroll, and study as much as you possibly can. But like we're talking about, you need to have a balance too. You'll get burnt out if you make it your entire life and you're depending on it to eat. You're probably just not going to be very successful, because this game is not something that you want to just to have to where you have to feed a family or eat on. I would go work at McDonald's before trying to be a professional poker player trying to feed a family. Just the stress would be way too much.
Yeah. At least maybe save up some money to a certain extent that you say, okay, for 6 months, I have this amount of money that I can spend for poker. It doesn't affect my expenses. Even if I lose it, I still have enough to feed my family or to cover my expenses. If I fail, I can go back in an old job, or I have a backup plan. But making everything dependent on poker can be very detrimental and shouldn't be your thing, because it will affect your game, and you don't want to see it as money. You don't want to attach, let's say, the next bill that you're going to be paying for your electricity, or the money you might not be able to pay your rent with. So you want to really see it as capital and not have any feelings or emotions attached with. A trick that always helped me when I'm run deep in a tournament, I never look at the payouts. I never know how much, because to be fair, the payouts are always the same. And when you're at some point when you're familiar with ICM, you know, okay, the payout structure is just different numbers, but relatively it's the same. And I don't have the numbers in mind, because if you see, okay, there's $500,000 at first, it's gonna be in your head. Subconsciously, it's gonna be there and will affect your decisions. And I think this helps me really staying calm and decisive also in later stages of the tournament, to not be affected of the money at all. I have also always been very conservative with bankroll management, and I think this is a huge edge you can actually gain if you have a very strict bankroll management and the money doesn't affect your decisions. You will already have such a huge edge, because there are so many players playing, also amongst regulars, who are not rolled for the stakes they're actually playing.
I would say almost all poker players are not rolled for what they play as a general rule. Everybody wants to play higher, wants to play better, bigger stakes. And that's why you have all these sites that sell pieces, and you can sell off so you can play higher. People, once you start playing 10Ks, people generally don't want to go back down and start playing 500s and 1500s.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
A lot of ego. It's a lot of things. Yeah. You got to check your ego at the door and make good decisions for your bankroll. And, again, a lot of times you'll have more fun playing a $500 tournament than you'll have playing a $10,000 tournament. When you bust, it won't hurt near as bad.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes
85% of the time you're going to go broke. That's just the math of it. So, once you get over the point that you realize that you're going to go broke over half the time in a poker tournament, I think it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. You mentioned a lot of things are changing, new formats, new games. Is there something that concerns you in live poker that you would like to change to make the game more sustainable, more accessible for new players coming in?
I mean, honestly, I think the live format, the live games are doing fine. Everywhere that
online, if you have also an advice for online.
I mean, online's more of a tough struggle. I'll be honest, just because the amount of hands that you see, the good players can multi-table and just take advantage of the weaker players more frequently. Or when you're playing live, obviously you're playing one table. Hands are slower. Players generally aren't playing super high. The majority of almost all the games that you see in poker rooms are 1-3, 2-5, and you might get a 5-10, or you might get like a 1-2 PLO or something like that. But they're just not like you're not going to see a whole lot of 5100 PLO being spread in live formats. You'll have that online. You'll have a lot of 5-10 PLOs going online, and the hands just come out so fast. And the more experienced players, I mean, it's just the nature of the game. It's a zero-sum game. Some people win and some people lose, and the more hands you see, the more it's going to hurt the kind of recreational players. And a lot of people don't like these new formats coming out, whether it be Power Up or all the Deep Freeze, the Pokerstars games that they have out. Some of the pros don't like to see that, but I mean, at the end of the day, they're not a bad thing, because they keep people in money, they keep people having fun. The spinning goes. I mean, it's these different concepts that sort of keep the game alive. I mean, I would dare guess that there aren't a whole lot of people just grinding no limit hold'em on a regular basis in cash games anymore. It's just so hard to grind no limit. I think most people are grinding tournaments, or they're grinding mixed games, or they're grinding, spin and go, sit and go, something other than just no limit cash. And that, again, it's a cyclical thing. It runs in patterns. I mean, I remember, I used to play a limit hold'em, and then I went over and started playing no limit hold'em, and then I transferred over to Omaha high low. Then I started playing pot limit Omaha, and finally got onto the mixed game train. So I was always changing my game up, trying to find different things that I felt like I had an edge at, or something that I enjoyed and, wanted to have fun at. So.
Yeah. Always trying to also learn some other new formats to expand your knowledge. I did the same with sit and goes. I also played some cash game on the side, even tried some PLO, even though I sucked at it, but it kind of keeps you engaging, seeing some other strategies, and you don't lose the passion for sit and goes. Because especially when you play 10, 25 big blind poker, it can be quite boring at some point. So maybe it's actually good advice from you that you just shared. If you get bored from tournaments or cash game, maybe just mix in some other formats. Can be way lower if you're a tournament player. Try some cash game, try some mix games, start very low, try to learn the format, and who knows, maybe there's going to be a new boom in some other games. What is speaking about? Sorry, you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
Speaking about boom, what do you think? What do we need to maybe have the Chris Moneymaker poker boom 2.0 in 2020, 2022 in the next couple of years?
I mean, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry.
No.
I mean, the most realistic thing that you have going for you is regulation in the United States. We do have some expanding markets. I mean, you look at India, you look at China. Those are really fast-growing poker markets, and they're experiencing, especially India. India is going through a big boom right now, where their market's really growing. China hasn't really tapped into it yet, and Russia probably hasn't fully all the way. So I think there's market growth there, and you can see a boom. Obviously, there is a potential for women to start playing more. Everybody says that's going to be the next boom. If a woman won the main event, I don't know if that would create a boom or not. You definitely see more women playing now than you ever have in the past. It seems like every year more and more women are playing. The problem is most of the women that are playing are pretty good. They're pretty confident, and they have a pretty good understanding of the game. They don't come in like men and just throw money at something and hope they're good at it. They generally take their time and study, and maybe are a little bit more prepared. So they're not going to be coming in like what made the Moneymaker boom, or that boom during that time so good, was you had all these people. It was like the gold mine. Everybody just rushed in with their bankrolls and just said, I'm going to be the next Chris Moneymaker. I'm going to win this big tournament. And everybody just started throwing money around at each other. And, everybody was so bad that everybody got a little taste. And then over time, people started getting better. And people started realizing that, the better players are going to win at the end of the day. And unfortunately, it is a skill game. And that's why, we're not going to get any kind of like boom, because you're not going to have just a bunch of yahoos coming in throwing a ton of money at it. Again, it's going to come from regulation and maybe a growth market. But
fair enough.
It's for all the people wanting it to go back to 04, 05. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen.
Fair enough. Valid point. I can't counter that. I was just thinking maybe there's something that could create another boom, but maybe as you said, regulations from other markets, maybe even from other industries like esports. Maybe there's some synergies where people are coming in, but just through someone taking down a tournament, it's probably not going to happen.
You can always hope. I mean, you just never know. My guess, I'm guessing no, but again, but poker's not dead by any shot. I mean, you can still make a living playing poker. That you can go grind 2-5 at your local casino and still make a really good living at doing it. There's still enough bad players out there.
That's true.
They're giving away money. If you work at your game, you can be successful at it.
And so many people say, well, but poker is getting tougher and tougher, and it's harder to make money. If I think back when I started, it was so much harder to learn, to study. What I learned in 1 year back then, I would today, with the material and the software that is accessible, learn in like maybe a couple of months. You just learn so much faster. You just have to utilize them.
There was like 2 books when I started learning how to play poker. I mean, there was just,
really?
We had like Super System and Mike Caro's Book of Tells. It was like, that was it. And once you read those 2 books, that was all the poker material out there back in '03. People were really guarded with their secrets. They didn't want to tell the show. I remember, I think it was Johnny Chan or Eric Seidel. They wouldn't show their hole cards on TV because they didn't want people to know their secrets. Poker information was not like it was today. It's so readily available, and it's basically out there for everybody. Like you said, you can learn so fast. Back then, it was tough. You had to kind of figure it out on your own.
Yeah, and you had to put your ego aside. If I remember me back then, I started 2006, and it realized 3 years that my college knowledge from beating my buddies and 1 cent, 2 cent games is not enough to beat online. I went broke 3 times with my $50 bankroll. So I think that's already the biggest obstacle, to put your ego aside and to admit to yourself, hey buddy, you suck. You gotta learn some strategy here to be able to compete and make some money.
I'll be honest. One of the people I had a lot of respect for one time in poker, which kind of me signing up with your site, was I was an instructor for PT boot camp many years ago, and Jerry Yang had just won the main event maybe 2 years prior, and I saw him walk into the boot camp, and we would always have different instructors we would teach with, so I just figured maybe he was the guy I was going to be instructing with, and so I was like, hey, what's up, Jerry? How you doing? Are you my co-instructor? And he's like, no, I came to learn. And it, again, for people like me, people like him, I don't want to say it takes a lot, but you got to realize that you have a lot to learn in the game still. Just because you won a tournament, you bank a tournament, doesn't mean that you're a good player. You still have to learn, and you still have to work at it. But just him showing up in a format like that and coming in as a student, people were pretty shocked to see him sitting in the back of the room with the rest of the students. But it just shows you that he did have for a while. I don't know if he's still playing or not, but had some dedication to try to get better and try to grow his game. And so I always look at anybody that has success in this game and they're still grinding, trying to get better. Got to respect someone for that. That's always trying to improve and make it not just resting on what they've done.
Yeah. Always remain a student. Remain a student of life, a student of poker. No matter when you're maybe a crusher or you're a poker coach or whatever it is, you will always remain a student. And the moment you start believing you're something special, it can turn out to be quite bad.
There's always some 21-year-old kid that's out there working 20 hours a day to take it from you. So every day, I remember someone told me every day you're not working on your poker game, someone's beating you.
Yeah.
And that's where you just have to make a decision. Do you want to work on your poker game, or do you want to have a life? And you got to find that balance and kind of figure out what you want to do.
That's true. What's your most favorite city to play poker in, or to play live poker?
Wow, there's so many. Down in Miami, just outside of Hollywood right now is really good. Texas is really good right now. I always enjoy going over to Sacramento and playing. Going to Barcelona's always a really great trip. I'm really happy that we moved the PSPC to Barcelona this August because that's one of my favorite trips of the year. The Bahamas, honestly, I was one that really liked the Bahamas. I like going down the water slides. I'm fat, so I can go down them really fast, so it's really cool. So I always enjoyed that trip. So I hated to see that trip go away. But yeah, those were kind of my favorite spots along the tour. And Prague is really good during the wintertime, going and seeing the Christmas market, and we went to a local hockey game there. It's a cool city as well.
What about cities for vacation? Where do you like to travel when you want to take some time off?
Well, I just took the family to Australia this past summer, and we had a blast. It was really cool. I want to take them to Africa and go on safari. Trying to see more adventure type trips. We've got a house down on the beach in Florida that we go to, basically my in-laws' house. We go down there and just stay with them on the beach when we want to sort of take a time off or vacation. Outside of that, we got the beach covered. We took them, we went over to Salt Lake City and went snow skiing. two breaks ago. So we try to do different, whether it be, something like snow skiing or Australia, Africa. We want to go on an Alaskan cruise. So those are the type of vacations that we're trying to take with the kids and just do different life experiences. We want to try to see all 50 states and let them see, just different parts of the world.
Yeah. Speaking about vacation, also a very, very popular question amongst poker players, or very hot topic to debate about, especially when you just get into poker, you need to study a lot, maybe you don't have so much money. Your advice on taking breaks and time off, maybe going vacations, or are you someone that says, no, for 1 year, you can't take that time off, you got to work your ass off and gonna be rewarded later, especially in the earlier ages? What would you say here?
Well, I mean, you got to work your ass off. That's part of life. I mean, but you don't have to work your ass off in poker. I mean, you got to, honestly, I work my ass off in some other facets. I'm trying to do something and I'm putting a lot of time into it myself now. But yeah, in your younger years, you want to work something that's going to be productive in your later life. And I don't know if poker would be that thing for me. It would be building a business or building something, building my career. I would focus more on that. And if somehow poker is going to be your thing and that's what you want to do, then yeah, you're going to have to put the time in. But again, you're going to end up a lot of times like your friends that got burnt out and they don't want to play after 4 or 5 years. So you got to have the balance too. And it's a tough thing to do when you're successful at something and you're doing really well. You want to do it all the time because you feel like you can just make so much money doing it. Just, it takes a unique mindset to be a poker player because you have to be able to handle the losses, handle the downswings, but also handle the successes as well, and realize that you need to step away and take that time. Being young and hungry is a great thing, but again, you don't want to wear yourself out and burn yourself out.
Yeah, you're in for the long run.
It's a tough balance, I'll be honest.
Yeah, and it's something that everyone has to figure out for themselves, how much break they need. At the end of the day, you also...
Yeah, I've got some friends, they've been playing poker nonstop all the time, and they still love it. They just love playing the game. They don't care. They love it. And, you might be that person, but like you said, once you start getting into a routine where you're playing 35 big blind poker, and that's all you're doing, I mean, you studied the charts, you studied the, what ranges you're supposed to be doing, and it's just not really that hard. It's more, I don't want to say mindless, because it's not mindless, but a lot of it's kind of solved. Yeah. And you have to keep challenging yourself, I guess.
Yeah. When you look back at at the beginning, maybe... No, we can actually also talk about maybe more recently, but also in the beginning. Was there someone that you would say I looked up to, I learned a lot from, no matter whether it's poker, business, life, someone that, yes, I learned a lot from this very person, inspired me a lot, maybe in your family, someone?
I mean, I learned a lot from a lot of different people along the way. I mean, Joe Hashem, taught me what I want to do is how to balance poker and family life. He would travel with his family. He would spend a lot of time with his family, and he's someone I really looked up to when it came to balancing that. He played a lot of poker, but also had his family by his side and kept, involved them in a lot of the stuff he was doing. So I always looked up to that, and we've been really good friends for 2 decades now. And to see his son make a deep run was a pretty phenomenal thing. He's always been super close with his family. So, it's kind of someone I've always looked up to and idolized and kind of want to be like when it comes to how he balances things and how he does things. I mean, I've learned so much in business from other people, most of which I've met through poker. But, as far as my poker game goes, probably one of the person that has one of the most influence is Calvin Anderson. I mean, I met him a long, long time ago. Down at the PCA, and I recognized him as a young kid, how he was just such a phenomenal player. It's back when he was, ranked number 1 or number 2 online, and I played with him. We did this thing called Fish and Chips. We went fishing one day and had a tournament that night, and I immediately realized he was talented and wanted to pick his brain and to, have him help me, coach me, help me improve my game and my mindset. And took me to some freaking weird yoga retreat and made me go all zen for a week while we were down at the Bahamas. He told me that he would pay for my entire trip if I wouldn't drink a Coke the entire time I was down there. I made it about 5 hours. Then I said, "Fuck it, I'm paying for my own shit." But he was always trying to push me to be a more purist player. He's a phenomenal player and a phenomenal person.
Yeah, that's an incredible mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a great mindset, and I can't match his mindset. I'll be honest, I've tried.
That's a funny story with the Coke. I've never heard about that.
And I don't really say it that often. It's not very much. I mean, he's like, man, if you don't drink Coke, we're in the Bahamas, we're grinding scoop. It just so happened we were both taking the trip down there to go play it. He said, "Listen, I'll pay for the whole trip. You just don't drink any more caffeine, no more Coke this trip." I made it about 5 hours. But dude, I'm dying. I got to drink it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Well, I barely drink any caffeine, but when I drink it for several days, you can already feel that at some point you need it, and I definitely need to stay then away for it for several days because I just get so used to the rush of caffeine, so I can definitely rely on that.
Well, he was going out and he got coconuts the first day we got down there. It was like chopping open coconuts and drinking them, and getting up and doing meditation and yoga in the morning, and he would pull me at like 6 o'clock in the morning to go do hymnal yoga and meditation and eat coconuts. I'm like, man, he's vegan and he's a little bit too hardcore for me.
Yeah.
So, but hey, I respect his lifestyle. I couldn't do it, but he's definitely a guy that's very principled in what he does, and he's I think that's helped him drive his poker game to be where it is.
Yeah, he's definitely a very talented player to be respected. Very tough to play against online. I recall he doesn't play that much anymore. I haven't seen him around for a while.
Yeah, he's taken some time off. I actually haven't talked to him in probably 6 months or so. I saw him at the World Series this past summer, but I guess over the last year or two, I've been so busy with this Moneymaker tour, I've lost a lot of the people that I would sort of run around with and travel with. I don't really see them much anymore because they're, I'm playing $60 tournaments, $180 tournaments. You don't see too many grinders playing those things.
Yeah. You mentioned that you're also doing other things, projects, and that's actually a question that I'm very intrigued about. A lesson that you have learned in business, like your biggest lesson, maybe the biggest obstacle that taught you something to do it better in the future in business.
It's actually what I'm dealing with right now. I mean, this project I'm working on I just want to go. Just learning restraint and learning to wait and not just jump and go. I mean, I've been working on the business plan and working on all these things that go with this project, and I'm ready just to go do it. And I want immediately to go and start tomorrow. But unfortunately, it's just not the right time. Got to let all the lawyers figure out all their things, and you got to be patient and just wait for the right time, right opportunity. And it's hard to do because you get so excited about a project and you put a lot of time and effort into it. But you just can't do it until the time is right. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is, make sure that you've done your due diligence and you're patient and you don't just jump into something on the whim of a hat. And, honestly, at the end of the day, I've been offered so many investment opportunities over the time that, I used to snap at a few here or there. I never snap, take any business decision. I never, look at any business opportunity. I'll sit on it for a couple of days before I would even consider it. Where in the past I would just snap. Sure, man, that sounds great. That sounds like an awesome idea. Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's more, the biggest thing is just, putting things aside, and nothing's so urgent it can't wait a couple of days. Just think about it and make sure that's something you want to do, and make sure it makes sense.
What is something that you failed at?
That I failed at?
Yeah.
The slot machine company, for one. That was a huge mistake. I didn't realize the barrier of entry to those things. I mean, I was doing appearances in lieu of payment to get slot machines into casinos, and it was working for a while. But then when you start dealing with an 800-pound gorilla that has more money than God, and they say they don't want you in their space, Even though I had a partner that was extremely wealthy, still their pockets were deeper, and deeper pockets win in that game.
Okay.
And kind of learned that the expensive hard way.
So it's an industry where you can only make a step in the door or a foot in the door when you have a lot of money, basically.
You need more than money.
Or
It's probably one of the toughest industries to get into. It's really
okay.
highly regulated and political, and I would never, ever, ever, ever advise anybody to get in the slot machine business. It's really, I mean, there's two major players and a third player basically that's kind of hanging on, but it's dominated by those three players. When you go in the casino, you're going to see their brands are in every single casino, and it's really tough to get floor space in casinos, and they're going to do everything they can do to protect that space.
Wow, I see.
Save your millions.
Better invest them somewhere else.
Just go Bitcoin and retire.
You invested in Bitcoin?
Yeah, I've got some Bitcoin. I don't look at it anymore. I don't look at the chart. I just know eventually it's probably going to be around 100K or whatever. It'll be up there eventually probably. But
Fair
if
enough.
not, it is what it is. But
Yeah.
I think it's
If you believe in it long term, you don't need to look at it daily and sweat, oh, is it going up?
yeah. I used to have Blockfolio on my iPad, and I would sweat it every day, see where it's at, and then I realized I'm not selling it anyway. So what does it matter?
Yeah, I'm checking it weekly, maybe once a week, if even. I also
honestly, I'm on Twitter now a lot, so, and I've got enough people that do it that whenever it bumps big or bumps real bad, you can always
you hear
you can
about
always
it.
tell.
Yeah.
And I used to tweet about it and say like, oh, look at all the red today. I think I should buy some, and then I just realized it's always going to go up and down drastically. You just, if you believe in it, you just sit back and hold it and let it go.
Yeah.
And obviously, you're hoping it goes to 2 cents and then can buy back. You can jump on again, and then it balloons and moons. But, if it ever drops super low, I would buy more. But I'm pretty happy with what I've got.
Yeah. The experience with Keven about the routines and the way he's doing it, did that change your life? That you now have also morning routines, night routines? That you incorporate into your life, or did you even have it before and you just changed
Never really had a routine. I mean, I live a dual life, more or less. When I'm at home, I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning, take kids to school, spend time with my wife, do a little bit of work, and then pick up the kids from school and usually just hang out with them. And then when I'm on the road, it's play poker till 4 o'clock in the morning, get up at noon, and start all over again. So it's really, two different ways of living, and I like it actually because it provides a good balance where when I'm at home, I don't mind getting up at 6 and going through the day, and it's exciting and it's fun. But also I want to change. I want to go and grind at night. So honestly, I spend 2 weeks at home, 2 weeks on the road, and it's a really good balance for me, and I really enjoy it. So that's more my routine than anything else is having two lifestyles that are completely and utterly different.
Do you read a lot?
No, I don't like to read. Reading's not my thing. I'm more of a video guy. I wait for the movie to come out for just about anything. Again, the few books I did read back in the day, because that was the only way to learn poker. But I've never been an avid reader. It's not been something that.
Or audiobooks, whatever.
I listen to a lot of sports talk and a lot of news talk. I don't do a lot of audio books, but most of anything I consume is going to be audio or visual. It's not going to be reading much material. I mean, I'll read the newspaper every so often and get a magazine or whatever, but I'm just not going to read a book cover to cover very often.
Apart from PSPC in 2000, we have 2020, and are there any other tournaments, trips that you have already planned?
Yeah, so I'm going to Sochi. I'll be in Russia in March. That'll be an EPT. I'll probably end up going to Lex Live, which will be in April. Obviously, I'll be playing the main event of the World Series of Poker, and I'll probably be there for the entire Brazil Barcelona tournament. Not just the PSBC, but also the EPT and all the side events. Again, it's one of my favorite cities, so I would imagine I'm going to be there for the entire time, which is going to be about a month. There in August at Barcelona. And generally, I always go to Brazil or Prague in December. I haven't scheduled that trip yet, but I imagine I'll be doing one of those two.
Awesome. Looking forward to see you playing live. Maybe we're going to meet. I intend to come to Barcelona as well. If I pick a live trip, then it would be Barcelona. We also do boot camps there. We had the boot camp last year, so we also plan it around the PSPC. We found an incredible venue there to conduct the boot camp for several days. And maybe we're going to meet there. Maybe we're going to see each other on the tables. Is there something else that you would like to share to the poker players out there to wrap up this podcast?
Just have fun with this game. This game's supposed to be fun. Again, work hard. I know a lot of people in your community are working hard, trying to improve their game, trying to increase those win rates. But I still play $10 games with my friends in the garage. You gotta enjoy this game. You gotta, not take it so seriously. It's still a game. Again, one of Calvin's things that he taught me, Calvin Angelo, he told me that he treats the game kind of like Monopoly money. If you start thinking about it in those formats, you said you don't look at the prize pool. It just takes a lot of the stress off. So just have fun with it.
Have fun with it. You hear it, guys. Listen to it. This guy has been around for a long time. So what he says is worth gold. And I agree to everything that you've shared. I don't want to say we have a similar story. This would be a disaster. Yeah, but we have a very similar approach, a very similar mindset how we approach poker, and so yeah, I really appreciate your input. I really appreciate you taking the time, and thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And makes me super excited. Was really nervous today to have the legend here on the podcast that we all look up to and we all should share a lot of gratitude with. We're going to do a second part. We're going to go over a couple of hands, and this is going to be very interesting because, of course, Chris is very experienced when it comes to live poker, and we want to analyze those hands more from an exploitative standpoint, how they approach it live, and really looking forward to pick up his brain on these spots. So stay tuned. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining me for the podcast. We will now then do in the part 2 the hand reviews. So stay tuned. Make sure to check it out. Thank you, guys.